Let's make some noise. That's a good choice.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Underrated. This is a podcast where we talk about films that are underrated or underappreciated or ones that have flown under the radar. I am your host, Derick McDuff, and joining me, as always, are Ariel Ortiz.
Hello.
And Alan Torres.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going?
For the summer, we are going to be talking about a few underrated and underappreciated sequels. And today we are going to be talking about the 2016 film Star Trek Beyond, which is the third in the Star Trek reboot franchise, directed by Justin Lin, written by Simon Pegg and Doug Young. And it stars the cast of the rebooted franchise, including Chris Pine, John Cho, Simon Pegg, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, Carl Urban, Idris Elba, and of course in one of his last roles, the film was actually released just a month after he passed away, our boy Anton Yelchin. So this was my...
I just wanted to be said that I almost consciously when you said
Zachary Quinto, Pegg, and Star Tracking a appreciate two.
Three. We'll get into it.
Okay, let's go in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome back to Underrated. This is a podcast where we talk about films that are underrated or underappreciated or ones that have flown under the radar. I am your host, Derick McDuff, and joining me, as always, are Ariel Ortiz.
Hello.
And Alan Torres.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going?
For the summer, we are going to be talking about a few underrated and underappreciated sequels. And today, we are going to be talking about the 2016 film Star Trek Beyond, which is the third in the Star Trek reboot franchise, directed by Justin Lin, written by Simon Pegg and Doug Young. And it stars the cast of the rebooted franchise, including Chris Pine, John Cho, Simon Pegg, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, Carl Urban, Idris Elba, and of course in one of his last roles, the film was actually released just a month after he passed away, our boy Anton Yelchin. So this was my...
I just wanted to be said that I almost subconsciously, when you said John Cho, said Bobby Lee. John Cho, Bobby Lee. Bobby Lee, John Cho. Okay, go on, move on.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Matt TV, it's sketch. You need to check it out. It's really funny. For the OGs out there.
But yeah, so, this was my pick. I'm a really big fan of the Star Trek movies. This film, while it did pretty well critically, it did not do great financially. It ended up probably, because, let's see, the box office on this one, it had a budget of $185, and the box office was $343, which sounds good, but when you kind of consider, marketing and everything, it actually ended up losing probably about $50,000 at the box office. So kind of a financial underperformance, not a complete bomb, but it definitely underperformed and lost a bit of money. And partially because of that, it has kind of stalled any future films in the Star Trek series. There have been attempts to make a Star Trek 4 with Quentin Tarantino, your boy Noah Hawley, which unfortunately, both of those have kind of fallen apart. There's been talks to bring
Noah
back Chris
Hawley
Hemsworth.
One hasn't
It has been canceled.
Oh, it
it,
did?
it has.
Oh, damn
yeah,
it.
it came
we
out.
talked
in,
about that when we talked about Legion. Yeah, and you're.
Yeah, I did because I did kind of look at for this. I did look it up, and it was in I think November he came out and said that the film wasn't happening anymore. Then they had another one where that was a script written by somebody who was doing the behind Star Trek Beyond. That one also is apparently not happening. But yeah, so this movie, it's kind of its own standalone Star Trek story, as they say. Kirk says in the film, it is kind of his life is feeling very episodic, and it does a lot feel like a old episode of Star Trek. It is about basically the crew of the Enterprise gets a distress call from a planet, goes to that planet, has to save them. Madness ensues. This was actually after J.J. Abrams had directed the first two, Justin Lin of Fast and Furious fame. He did Tokyo Drift, the recent Fast 9, and I think the sixth one took over. And I, at the time, was pretty nervous about that because I'm not a huge Fast and Furious guy, but I absolutely loved this to the point where it might be my favorite Star Trek movie. I think it actually is, edging out Wrath of Khan and Star Trek 09. But before I get too deep into it, I want to hear what you guys think.
Alan, why don't you start?
What was that?
Alan, why don't you start?
Sure. I'm not really a big Star Trek guy at all. Like I kind of just ride or die Star Wars really hard.
Oh,
so growing up, I was always like, "Fuck Trek, man! It's all about the wars, bro." But
I think
like,
JJ has
the
taught
new
us
movies
to go against that. But okay.
JJ has taught us that like you can go.
You can be
on both
friends.
sides,
You can like both. I like both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, now over time I've grown up and I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, I don't hate Star Trek. I did like Star Trek, the first one, the first J.J. Abrams. Jokingly call him J.J. Abrams, personally. Jabroni and J.J. Abrams. And then I did like Into Darkness just because of my boy Benedict Cumberbatch.
Mm-hmm.
My name
I had seen it before,
Tom.
but I had to rewatch it.
Sorry, I just had to.
We have issues with that one because of my boy. He does the fucking Smaug like voice, like I think he was preparing for Smaug on that one.
But we got the deleted scene of him taking a shower. Sorry.
Wait, what?
Yeah, there's a deleted scene of him
No
like
way.
getting like he's like at least half naked, like with water running down him. Benedict Cumberbatch. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to use that as a thumbnail for this episode.
Yeah.
He used the thumbnail.
In a completely
Not even for what he's
different
doing in this movie.
Yeah.
Completely different movie. Star Trek Beyond. They're just gonna have Benedict Cumberbatch.
Beyond that ass.
I'm gonna do it for that one. But for the listeners, I'll jokingly make one just for shits and gigs. I mean, I dug it. I mean, I don't hate him like I used to. I kind of was like, all right, I went into it. The first time, I won't lie, I did fall asleep when I first saw it, but I was like, maybe under the influence of something, so maybe that's why. Today again, excuse me. I mean, it's a fun movie. Like you said, it's very episodic. I felt like it could just be like an episode of like the classics series and stuff. But yeah, I really liked the special effects. The special effects were awesome. I really dug them a lot. Seeing, Chris Pine is just awesome. I love him. Zachary Quinto. I felt like he was okay in this one. I feel like the first two he was just awesome, but in this one, I don't know, maybe because he was hurt most of the time. Like, eh. And then most of the characters were kind of just like, I feel like the previous ones, they had a little bit more oomph to them. I felt like this was very much about Krull and Kirk and Jayla. Like, I felt like it really surrounded them. But even then, later on, I felt like Jayla was kind of just like another supporting character kind of in the background. So,
yeah, I got
that's pretty sick.
I got my boys here. I got Jayla. I got my boy Chekhov, Kirk, and Sulu.
Nice. I'm so excited. I love John Cho too, so he's great. But yeah, like I think that's only my biggest complaint is like I like all the actors a lot, so I wanted to see them do a little bit more. Like kind of like I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping thought he was going to get a little bit more because I love Simon Pegg.
Really,
But
because
I
he
feel
wrote
like
it, so I
maybe
felt like he
'cause
actually had a much bigger part in this one than he usually does.
Well, like he was in half of
They
the
did.
second one. Like, I mean, he wasn't like he wasn't in much of the second one because he wasn't even on the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he was there. Like when I saw the credits, he wrote it too. So I was like, all right, well, I can't complain too much because he wrote it. But yeah, I think like the big spectacle stuff about it was great. I love the action. I just felt like it was a little redundant at times because like I felt like it kind of thinking about the second movie a lot. Like I was just like, oh yeah, didn't the ship crash in that one? Didn't the ship get destroyed in that one? And then now it's like the big twist of like it was like in the previous one, Khan was like part of like Starfleet, or was he like
He was like an
No.
experiment from like the back in like the day, like around like the now times, like pretty much. And they
Yeah.
were like, oh, this guy's a warlord. He was like a warlord who like started like World War III, not World War III, but like just like these genetic wars. And then they were like, we gotta freeze this guy because we might need him because he's crazy and he's got that super blood, but we don't want him running around. And then they unfroze him and he went and did his con thing and he was like, fucking Robocop's here.
Yeah, but he was part of like a crew, and then like I think they came across that crew, and then like yeah, like the experiments ensued. The ship that crash landed was that ship, that his original ship, the one that he had his crew on and stuff like that. That they were all frozen and stuff.
Yeah, because they didn't. Yeah, the ship didn't crash in like it wasn't destroyed in Star Trek Into Darkness. It was destroyed in this, and that is kind of like a trope of all the Star Trek movies. It's like the Enterprise. Like I remember, like in the old movies, and then the next gen movies, like that was the thing that happens like a lot. Was the Enterprise just gets blowed up? So I was like, okay, good. Like finally, we're blowing up the Enterprise. After 3 movies, we're getting to blow it up again in this one. And I did like that.
Oh, okay. So I thought it was just me because I was like, this ship gets fucked up a lot. Like, just like, damn. Like,
The
all right,
Enterprise
cool.
is
All right,
just
so I
a
guess that's the
name,
thing.
kind of thing. The Enterprise is just an idea in the Star Trek lore.
an
Any
idea.
ship could be
Yeah.
the Enterprise.
Well, it's like like they always have like the Enterprise, like by the time it's like the Enterprise A and then the Enterprise B, and so like by the end of like Star Trek 6 or whatever, I'm like Enterprise F or whatever because it kept getting blown up every movie.
Enterprise is not a ship. It never was. People. That's all I could think about. You guys so look at that. But other than that, it's a fun movie. I mean, like I said, yeah, just a couple little things here and there. Yeah, I'd love to see the supporting cast a little bit more, but I dug it. I mean, especially the special effects and the costume design. Like, I'm usually pretty good at like figuring out, oh, that's this actor or whatever under the makeup. Not until like maybe about halfway through the movie, I was like, "Oh shit, that's Idris Elba." I had no idea.
It's
he
no
was in
Suicide Squad in terms of makeup, though, Alan.
I know, no way.
Because
far
it
from
did get nominated for best makeup at the Oscars, but
Oh,
it lost
yeah,
to Suicide Squad. The superior
I blocked
makeup film.
that
Just throw some
out of
fucking
my
clown
mind.
makeup on Margot Robbie.
Oh my
It's
God.
better than all that.
You guys
Pisses me off to this fucking day, but whatever. Sorry.
Oh, no. Going on a
Does it
tangent.
again. Every
Tangent.
time.
Oh, you do, dumbass. No. I'm like flashing back, like Vietnam flashbacks right now because I totally remembered watching that Oscars and legit. Do you know how they show like when they announce each nomination nominee like pictures of the work and stuff like that comes on to like Star Trek Beyond, these beautiful like work of like legitimately like people like having shells and like all this stuff on their head and like just like intricacy after intricacy. Then it comes into Suicide Squad and just shows a picture of
His
Margot
little
Robbie,
monster.
his little monster, like all that, and
Yeah, his
like
little monster,
and then
that
Enchantress
hideous
with
killer
his
croc.
her like just like weird ass like bedazzled face and or like outfit and stuff like that. Fuck. Damn it! I'm reminded.
I won't lie. As much as like
My anger is.
I'm
in me.
happy that
But yeah.
as much as I love that like DC Comics gets like Oscars and stuff more often than Marvel. still kind of like, after watching, and I was like, I don't know, man. I feel like Star Trek got robbed.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
I was
like,
definitely
that's
got
not-
robbed.
Because Killer Croc's, like, you look at Killer Croc in that movie and then look at any alien and beyond, his, like, design is fucking disgusting. Like, he just doesn't look good at all. Like, I hate his design in Suicide Squad. I always, like, when I watch that movie, I kind of look at him and just go, just leave. Just get the fuck out of here, man. Like, ugh. I thought the animated series, Batman the Animated Series, Killer Croc design was horrible, but that one just took the fucking cake. But
Yeah.
dude, the costuming, the special, the makeup effects, amazing. Like, I love that shit in movies, especially. So, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, I dug it. It was a lot of fun. So I just wish the cast got a little bit more love. But yeah, what do you think, Ariel?
So I definitely think that while I love the so far trilogy, hopefully more movies come. I know. I do think that this is kind of the weaker one of them, but I think that's only because of, like, yeah, maybe that episodic kind of feel to it. It legitimately, like, kicks off, like, from the beginning. Like, I did not remember, like, how much it just, like, okay, we're just in the middle of this kind of stuff and stuff. I think 2 kind of started Into Darkness kind of started like that, but there was, like, a little bit more, like, of a lead in where this kind of very much kicked off. I'm like, okay, like, but of course I loved it. I think 2 had the advantage of having more gravitas to it because of the con of it all. Like, people took that seriously, so it already had that
Some
air.
people did.
I did. Like, con is like a big part of Star Trek kind of mythos. So, like, once that reveal happens, you're like, oh shit, like, shit's going to go down. And then, of course, like, the very I just love these movies overall because of how genius it is that essentially this is like an alternate timeline. You know, those other movies, they existed. You know, like, this is just an alternate timeline because, you know, Kurt's dad died on the Calvin, and then, like, that just, like, kind of essentially, like, domino affected everything somehow, some way.
It's like that meme with the little domino, and then it goes to a bigger domino, and you know.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, so it's just like I love that already, and then so I like these movies, like, of course, overall, and but the second one I feel like had it was especially that kind of was it that really cool twist on the story of Khan, where Kurt ends up in the chamber and it's not Spock and all that, and then, like, of course, Spock saying Khan
Then, like,
instead of
or whatever.
reversing
The old
instead of Kurt.
switcheroo.
The old switcheroo. But yeah, I did like the third one. I feel like, yeah, it kind of felt a bit rushed. It kind of felt like it was lacking the gravitas in each character. I mean, we get to know a little bit more of each character. You know, you get to see Sulu's family in that element. You see Chekhov is like a ladies' man, apparently.
Oh, would you like me to buy you a drink? Scotch actually come from Russia.
Yeah. Well, he's the one at the beginning where like Kurt is like talking about like they have relationships, and he's the one that gets
He's got to
kicked
do
out.
the walk of shame, my boy Chekhov.
Yeah, I was like, Chekhov, like, kind of thing. I don't think I ever caught that before this latest viewing, so I was like, Chekhov, come on, man.
I think I missed it. I didn't see that.
Yeah. He's the one that, like, that. Yeah,
Wait,
got kicked out.
he was the one that
got kicked out? Yeah,
Yeah.
of that girl's
was
cabin.
shit by the green lady?
Yeah,
By the green
Uh-huh.
Oh, no way. I didn't even realize it was
Yeah.
him. That's so cool.
Yeah, but I do enjoy this one. I think it kind of sucks because it does make you definitely want more because of how it is. I feel like, okay, so in the span of things, like, this is technically taking place where the show did, because the show is their 5-year trek. And so this is their 5-year trek, right? That's when it takes place, and I really did enjoy that, like how it kind of like, yeah, you get an understanding of Kurt, of like things become monotonous, even though they're exploring new worlds and it should be exciting. Like it's still like the same old in a way, the diplomacy of it all, and like even though getting attacked by aliens every other day and getting your shirt ripped because of a fight or whatever. So I did enjoy that, and I think like that's something that kind of makes the whole story a little bit more real. And then yeah, I feel like to me, I think maybe Spock's character was kind of different because it's kind of exploring a little bit more of his human side. I think like even like Bones was like, you're hurt, that's why you're laughing, and human side's kind of coming out. But then also that kind of like plays into like his existential kind of feelings of his volcanism, which is always a theme for the character Spock throughout the whole history of Star Trek, but yeah, just even more now because Vulcan there's the low population, so he's like, oh man, should I like do what's right for the should I do what's right for my people, or do what's right for love, and then older Spock passing away, which was a very nice tribute to Leonard Nimoy with this. I really loved it. I mean, I think it was done very well. Like they didn't like even do a video, a CGI kind of video of him. No, they just like made it. Yeah, like that's why I love about these movies. It just kind of makes the Star Trek more real. Whereas like Star Trek, like before this was very fantastical, and even though Gene Roddenberry kind of made it for the purpose of it connecting with people and stuff like that, but there is still that kind of like slight realism and groundedness that these movies contribute to. So yeah, while it's not like, because all of them are really good, this is like essentially like like a B to the A's, or the B plus to the A's of movies for me. So it's very much it's still a really good movie. So yeah, that's what I think.
I agree with you on that, Ariel. Like, as someone who's a very casual like viewer like of Star Trek, like I know the crew. I know a little bit of Next Generation. I think like my only Star Trek favorite character is Q, and that's all I know, essentially.
God,
and pretty much.
I need to watch the new series. But yeah.
But yeah, pretty much like it's cool for a casual viewer like me and my girlfriend who usually watches all these movies with me. Like we're both kind of like, oh, that's cool, like awesome, like we like. Also nice to go into something that's like into things like lore, and we're big nerds. We all love to like read everything we can about like Star Wars or anime or whatever, So for this, that's what I really applaud this, like that they were able to make, this very long history of Star Trek, of the Star Trek franchise into like these really good casual movies that are like blockbuster films, but also like you have a great time with them. So like, even though I'm not a Trek guy, I'm still like, hey man, I really dug these. These all three of them are really good. Like Ariel said, they're still all solid films, no matter what.
I gotta agree. Obviously, like I was saying at the beginning, like this is my favorite Trek film. Like, I think I'm a little just kind of like flipped with you, Ariel, where like for me this is my favorite one, and then Star Trek Into Darkness is probably like a B plus A minus kind of movie, which I do really enjoy that movie. I think like, and I think I appreciate like, oh yeah, like they bring back Khan and all this stuff, from the old series, and like diehard Star Trek fans will appreciate it. I think the criticism it got at the time was that it's like, okay, like we know who Khan is and this is an important character, but like the people on the Enterprise don't really know him. So when he has that revelation, they kind of tells them everybody he's Khan. People are just kind of like, okay, who? Like Kirk is like, who's the fuck are you? And it's like a big name drop. But something that you guys, a couple of things you guys said you didn't like about the film were things that were my favorite things about the film, and I think that it is that kind of episodic, standalone nature of the movie, that it's just like, this is just a kind of Star Trek movie you can just kind of throw on. And I think they were trying to, in Beyond and, in some other films, they were trying to kind of like build up a story and like, okay, we're going to introduce Khan, he's going to be maybe like an important recurring character, and we're going to have these other people, and there's going to be events building on from the first film and stuff like that. And they went a different way with this movie. They were like, you know what? This is just going to be a standalone Star Trek movie. If you haven't seen the other ones, that's cool. If you have, that's cool. Every character in it kind of has their own like little arc. Mm-hmm. And it's cool because Kirk's arc in this movie, he has an arc, but it's a completely different arc than the arc he goes to in the first one, for example. Mm-hmm. Like the first, Star Trek 09, he's very like irresponsible and just like running around, and he has to learn to be a leader. And Spock has his own arc, and a lot of even the supporting characters have their arcs. And in this, Kirk has matured a lot, but he's kind of just like, like you're saying, like, what is my life at this point? Like, he's older than his dad ever had been, which is something new to this version of Kirk. So we didn't get to see that in the original movies, and so he's just kind of like, what am I doing? He's like, should I move on with Starfleet, or should I keep doing what I'm doing now? And he's just kind of it's like almost like having like a midlife crisis where he's like, does it matter what I'm doing here? And him and Spock's like, oh, now that like Spock Prime is dead, like I'm the only one, I can't be in two places at once anymore. And their friendship is going these other ways, and they really just don't make sequels like this anymore, where it's just like, this is just it's a popular franchise, and here's just an adventure in the franchise. Like, and as much as I like absolutely love like big interconnected movies with all this lore and stuff like that, or like a big series like Lord of the Rings or like the MCU, where it's like, oh, this thing that happened in Thor: The Dark World is really important for Loki, and it's like, that's fucking cool. I like that this is just like another Star Trek adventure with this cast that you really like. It's like an Indiana Jones movie, like the Indiana Jones 3, you could watch that one in any order. Like, here's just Indiana Jones 3, it's his own separate adventure, it has nothing to do with Indiana Jones 2 or Indiana Jones 1. That's how they used to make movie sequels, and they just stopped making. You're really distracting me right now, Ariel, with your
I
face.
just popped up, my mind just popped into, what series is very episodic right now?
Huh.
It's the Fast series. It's pretty
I don't know. Could I watch?
That's what I was thinking that as well.
Yeah.
Could I watch Fast 9 having never seen a Fast movie before and be like, okay, I know what's going on?
No, definitely, definitely,
dude. I'm gonna be fucking real, dude. Like,
because it's gone off the rails so much, you could just pop in fucking seven.
But like, it's gonna be like, because it's all like, oh, if I I didn't know who Han was, like I didn't know that he died in this other movie. Would that matter?
I think the shock of them like
didn't
Han.
they like fix that though?
Yeah.
But if I don't know who Han is, then I'm like, oh, they're like, oh, this guy, he was back, and like I don't know any of these characters and all this stuff. Does
From experience, I had skipped. I watched like maybe one Tokyo Drift, and then I jumped to like 5, and I knew what.
Okay, so then maybe I should just do an experiment and just go see 9 and see what I think about it, because you couldn't do that with like Endgame or something,
Oh yeah, definitely.
And maybe that's why the Fast movies are so popular, is you can just kind of like just watch whatever movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can just do that.
Yeah,
honestly, like they're just like. Yeah, like honestly, they're old '80s slasher horror movies. Like that's essentially what they are. Like you can go watch Friday the 13th Part 5 or some shit, and you don't have to. You watch it and you're like, that's Jason. That's what he does. Yeah, this is literally that. Like you're talking about episodic. Like I honestly, if I go watch F9 right now, I have no fucking clue what happened previously, and I've seen all of them. Like, oh, it's about cars and Vin Diesel. Okay. Mm-hmm. They're super casual.
Okay, so maybe I think that's probably why they're so successful, because they're directed by a lot of them are directed by Justin Lin, who did this movie. Mm-hmm. So I think probably on something there. See? And so like I really do appreciate that. You can just kind of like go into this movie, watch it. It's self-contained, and it's just kind of its own sequel. And other than like you guys were saying, the Fast movies, that's really something pretty rare in Hollywood these days, and it's nice to just kind of go and be like, okay, here's the story. And Alan, kind of what you were saying about the characters, I really liked the character dynamics in this. because it does something that when you get in the first one, you're like, okay, you've got to kind of establish these characters and these iconic relationships. You're like, okay, you have to have like Kirk meeting Bones, you have to have Kirk meeting Spock, you know, and then you have Chekhov over here, and you have like Scotty, and he's doing his thing. And this one, it kind of like, it's like, okay, well, we've had all these characters meet. We can do some different relationships now. We can have Bones hanging out with Spock and have them go on a whole little adventure. You know, you can have, like, Scotty going and meeting somebody on the planet. You can have, like, Kirk and Chekhov doing their thing, you know? Like, you can have all these different interesting relationships now that you have these established characters. And that's one thing that is really good about sequels, especially sequels like this, you know, where you're not beholden to, like, some larger story. You're like, all right, you guys like these characters? Let's mix it up a little bit. Let's have these different dynamics at play. And one of my favorite things in the movie is the whole, like, back and forth between Bones and Spock, and he's just like, all right, man, you red-blooded Vulcan, this is gonna hurt you, your spleen's over here, all right, and they're just like, they're back and forth, and he's like, Doctor, I don't believe we should be doing this, and just, I fucking love all of that. I also gotta say, while I'm on, before I get too far off, the music in this movie is fucking incredible. My boy Michael Giacchino, who is my favorite composer, he's done all of the Star Trek films, he's done a lot of my favorite movies of all time. I think his score in this is iconic, and it also has literally the best needle drop, like the best pop music song dropped into a movie of all time, in my opinion, when it has Sabotage by the Beastie Boys just dropped in, because it works on so many levels. Because
it's a callback from the first one. That's why.
It's the callback from the first two, because in the first one he listens to Sabotage.
Yeah.
In the second one, so it's established that Kirk likes the Beastie Boys, even though it's never commented on. I forget what song, but he listens to another Beastie Boys song in the second one, so you know that Kirk is a big Beastie Boys fan. And then, you know, you have Jayla and her talking about, like, classic rock. I'm like, oh, shit, she's listening to Run DMC, not the Beastie Boys. Okay, well, and then they're, like, literally sabotaging the aliens, and they bring it back to a sabotage, and he just looks at the camera and goes, nice choice. And it just, the way it like explodes and everything. And the Beastie Boys, you know, that's because J.J. Abrams is a big Beastie Boys fan, and the Beastie Boys were actually big Star Trek fans. Like, they have, like, a pinch on the neck from Mr. Spock, you know, shit like that.
That's all I can think about. That was all I could think about the whole movie.
But yeah, like, honestly, this movie really did a lot for me. It's kind of one of those movies I can just kind of go back to and watch whenever. Like, I was talking to somebody a little while ago, and I was like, oh, we were like watching a movie virtually, and I was like, let's watch, you know, let's watch Star Trek Beyond. She's like, oh, is that the one where, like, you have to know, like, Into Darkness? Like, no, you can just kind of jump into this one. You can kind of just, like, have fun. I do think it gives the characters a little more room to breathe, because it is a little bit more lighthearted. They're kind of just going around. They're each able to kind of do their own things. You have that great sequence with, like, the motorcycle where they're, like, diving and weaving and stuff like that. And I do like the themes. That does kind of harken back to Gene Roddenberry's original themes about, like, humanity just kind of, like, evolving past a point where you would need, like, war and, like, destruction, because the villain of the movie, you know, played by Idris Elba, Kroll, is, like, he's like Edison, as it's revealed, is actually, you know, somebody who predated Starfleet, that was like, humanity builds on itself by war, and that's how, you know, he's all about just, like, kind of like we're breaking bread with the Romulans and stuff. And it's like, no, as humans, we've, like, evolved past that. It's, you know, Gene Roddenberry's ideals of, like, we no longer need war. Like, our society has existed with this, and it's been built on this, but we can move past it. And that's kind of, like, you know, a beautiful idea that I think this film does implement really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it has, just thinking about it now, and then it has, you know, showing of further progression that is kind of like on the side of Bones, kind of met with a little bit of adversity with the what's the space station called?
Oh, the goddamn snow globe in space.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like, essentially, like, it even shows that kind of like progress. So that was kind of like, now looking back on it, kind of like a precursor to that notion of, like, you know, like, you have to keep moving in the words of Walt Disney, keep moving forward, kind of thing. So yeah.
And it does have, like, a lot of, like, little things in it that, like, diehard Star Trek fans can appreciate. Like, those, you know, like, when he mentions, like, the Romulans and the, you know, the I don't remember who says it, but, like, the other aliens they were fighting. Like, there's all these references to, like, classic Trek, somebody says something about, and Scott is like, "Oh, green hand in space," which was like a classic episode of Star Trek where like there was like fighting like a green hand. There's all these like little like Easter eggs in there that are like, if you're like a big Star Trek fan, you're like, "Oh, that's really fucking cool."
Definitely.
I heard that and I was I wonder what that is. I'm like, did they really fight like a giant green
They
hand?
do, yeah.
Like just some cosmic. That's fucking crazy.
Well, one
Yeah,
of
because
the, one
old
of the
episodes
things,
were wacky.
One of the things that is a callback to Star Trek lore is when Sulu takes the captain's chair, because he eventually in the old movies he eventually becomes a captain, and then his daughter becomes a captain also. But
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, and he's the
And then,
this is
then
great.
he has
It was
a daughter,
like a
so
meme
that
where
daughter
he's
is
got the
gonna
tea,
Uh-huh.
and he's like sipping the tea. Like Sulu, he's the captain of the Excelsior in one of the later movies, and he's just like sipping on the tea. He's like, "Let them fight." But yeah, and speaking of Sulu, like as like kind of a tribute to George Takei, like Sulu is canonically gay in this film, so and I think that's a really cool choice to like. And I think George Takei, he kind of like at the time was
He
like,
never
he was
hit it.
he was,
Like even in
he was
they never mentioned it, but he never hit it. Like so that was definitely.
But yeah, he was not the biggest fan of like Sulu in the like in the new films being gay. He's like, you should introduce a new character. But a lot of people were kind of like, you know what? I think it is important to just not that, because that if you introduce a character and like, oh, this is just the gay character, they kind of become the token gay character. Like you just introduce a new character to just be the gay guy. But if you have a character that is like established and it's like, okay, this is somebody you know, and guess what, this character is LGBTQ, like that's really important for representation. I think it's also the same reason why it was really big deal for Loki, small spoiler for Loki to come out as bi. So I do think that when you have these characters that have been around for so long, and you kind of like they did in the Ultimate X-Men series, they made Colossus gay. So I think that is really important for representation, and it was nice to see in this movie, in not just kind of like a throwaway way. Like you do see his family there on the space station. It is a character really well that you care about. So yeah, I just all across the board, just this movie really does it for me. It's just a fun kind of adventure film in space that I can just kind of go back and watch whenever. But yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
Well, I said my favorite Star Trek movie.
Yeah. Please make another one, please.
What was that?
I'm like telling the universe, please make another one, please.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh! Like it's just like they've been trying for so long to make another one.
I'm sorry.
I don't need a Tarantino. I don't need to hear Klingons say the N word. Like I don't need a fucking Tarantino Star Trek movie. But like no.
Fathom that. I can't fathom Quentin Tarantino doing anything that's not his.
I know.
Like,
Right?
other than Jackie Brown. Like if they said Quentin Tarantino's gonna do like a movie they were thinking of having him do. Like if they're like Quentin Tarantino take a Marvel movie Bond, I'd be like, the fuck, that's weird, man. Like I don't know, he's I love him as a director. I think it's just weird, like super strange.
That would be really weird.
He's just delaying it while like no one asks you to retire. He's still delaying it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned it 10 years ago, but
yeah, like one of the interesting things was that there was even a fourth film on track, and they had hired they were going to bring back, like I said at the beginning, Chris Hemsworth and Chris Pine, which probably means it would have been
awesome.
It would have been great, because it would have been a time travel story, and that's something that's been a big thing in the Star Trek movies. I really like a couple movies. They're like, we're gonna go back to the 90s and get some whales, or we're gonna go back to like the 2040s and we're gonna get the guy from Babe, and just like they're always these cool. And there was like a little bit of time travel in Star Trek '09, but it was the time travel, like the main characters weren't doing it. They were like receiving someone from the future. The bad guy was from the future. So it would be cool to have them do like a time travel movie, but that kind of fell apart because the studio was like, hey, since the last film did really bad, we're going to pay you a lot less. Chris Pine, you're going to take a huge pay cut. Chris Hemsworth, you're going to take a huge pay cut. So that's why the negotiations fell apart at first, and then they brought in Noah Hall. And it's just kind of been this movie that's been stuck in developmental hell forever. But I would love to see another Star Trek movie. If you guys were going to see another Star Trek movie, what kind of movie would you like to see?
It would be that. I mean, like at this point in the old series, we were at that point of time travel and experimenting with that, and then just the freaking callbacks you could do with like that time with Picard's run of movies, like with bringing back like the captains essentially, like they bring back Kurt and that whole kind of run, and like just like kind of having a subtle reminiscent of that lore of Star Trek. Yeah, that when I had heard that, like I was like, oh, that's gonna be so amazing, especially like playing into like Kurt not have, like always longing for that relationship with his dad, that and especially finding out that like he lost that, he could have had that, his other version of him had that. So if it isn't like Chris Hemsworth, definitely like, yeah, getting that. Well, can't get that other Kurt I remembered. Sorry. But
no X-Men Days of Future Past scenario going on for this one, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, but canonically, nah, can't have that Kurt anymore either. But yeah. But even I mean, no, it'd be too far fetched for Picard. You don't want to bring Picard in. Like,
I think you got it, because he's kind of doing his own thing. He's got his show, like that's kind of existing in this other.
Really good things about it.
And I think that's also a part of the reason why it has been so, like, we haven't gotten a new Star Trek movie, is because they've been so focused on, like, kind of building this expansive universe of shows. They've got Discovery, they've got Picard, they've got Lower Decks, and it's kind of, like, all shifted over back to TV, which is, like, where Star Trek started from. But, they're kind of, like, more focused on that, and to the point where, like I mentioned before, they brought on a writer of Star Trek Discovery to kind of pen the fourth Star Trek film, so I wonder if that would have tried to, like, tie that in. And I just kind of want it to exist on its own. Like, this is, like you said, an alternate separate timeline. We don't need to tie it into anything else. They are in the middle of their mission, which is something we didn't get to see in the films before, because the films all took place, like, when they were older, and after they retired, it was all these kind of adventures they were going on. Mm-hmm. So it was cool that this was, like, an episode of the show, but just blown up to a movie budget. Mm-hmm. And I would like to see, something else like that with some time travel or something in it. It'd be really cool. There's some talks about it coming out in maybe 2023. There's, no current writer or director attached to that. There's still, so they're saying it's not going to be connected to the Tarantino or the Hawley or the Discovery one. So we'll see. But, maybe it'll come out probably before the Avatar movies finish, hopefully. Yeah. Because those movies are never fucking coming out.
Yeah. But I do really wish that they look back and see, like, I think that when they announced that previous, like, possible storyline, like, people were hyped, So I really do hope that they, like, revisit that and, like, say, like, I feel we're in this age where, for better or worse, the fans have an influence on storylines, and in this case, I really hope that they listen to fans. So yeah. And any final thoughts on Star Trek Beyond, guys? Yeah, Alan, what are your thoughts on what storyline you would want to see for a fourth movie?
Honestly, don't know. I don't know much about it. Like I said, I mean, I was kind of cool with, like, you guys. I was kind of like on board with what you guys were saying. I was like, a time travel story would be cool. I mean,
Spock and Uhura getting married has to happen in the next one.
Yeah, like, that'd be cool. Yeah. And Kirk would be the best man. Oh,
yeah. And then we would have to have, like, a tribute to Chekhov too, because I really don't think that they'll recast.
They said they weren't going to recast. They did say that. Yeah. And honestly, I'm not going to lie. When I first, because I saw this in theaters, and I'm, as I've said before when we talked about Like Crazy, I'm a really big Anton Yelchin fan. I think he was one of the greatest actors of our generation. That just his time just got cut short. And this came out a month after he died. So it was already pretty much finished when he died, and but it has that little thing where it just says for Anton, and that got me really emotional. It got me emotional again watching it today. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
I don't know too much about his work, but yeah, like, rest in peace. That was still, like, it was sad to hear when it happened.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening to our discussion on Star Trek Beyond. I've been having a lot of fun talking about these sequels. So go back and listen to our discussion on a couple other ones. We've talked about Scream 2, and we've talked about Tron Legacy. We'll be talking, for the rest of summer about more sequels. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, we also do a couple other podcasts. Ariel, my podcast is taking a break, but if you want to tell about your You've Never Seen podcast.
Yeah, my podcast is called You've Never Seen, ? It is a podcast where I introduce somebody or I get introduced by somebody a movie that is considered a part of pop culture or cinematic history, but sadly we have never seen it before. So we get to watch it for the first time and get our first opinions of it.
Yep. And so, yeah, if you guys are listening, if you like what you've heard here, actually just go ahead and if you could subscribe to us or give us a rating if you liked it. Tell a friend. We do rely on word of mouth to kind of get the word out there about our podcast. It really helps if you tell anybody. It immediately means the world to us. And thank you guys for listening.
We also have a
check
Patreon.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we do have a Patreon if you guys want to support that way. You can do it for as little as $1 a month. We really do appreciate that because it lets us kind of do some stuff with the show. Because we all just kind of put our own money into this show, so it is nice if we get a little bit of help in that regard. It does make a huge difference. If you have any suggestions for us for some underrated movies you want to hear us talk about, you can email us at undercastcompany@gmail.com. Follow us over on Instagram at undercastco. Or follow us on Facebook. I am going to be guesting on a lot of different podcasts coming up, so if you guys want to hear me anywhere else, just follow us on Instagram, posting about any of that. But yeah, thank you again so much, everybody, for listening. Live long and prosper.
Thanks for being amazing.
Everybody, have a good one.